Hello. With you is Best Movie. Today, I will talk about movie The Martian. Watch out and take care, there are spoilers in this video. Let's get started. In 2035, the crew of the Ares 3 mission came to Mars to explore Acidalia Planitia on the Martian solar day, Sol, 18 of their 31 Sol expedition. The crew came to bring samples of Earth and stones from Mars, on Earth, to analyze what the soil and rocks are like, and whether they are similar to those on Earth. Suddenly the ship's radar shows that a strong dust storm is heading towards the crew, which could bring down the ship with which the entire crew should go back to Earth. The crew is forced to abandon their Martian mission. During the evacuation to the ship, the dust storm is so strong that it can lift a man from the ground. Astronaut Mark Watney, on his way to the ship, was struck by rubble and lost in a storm. His equipment, which had a signal with the ship, shows no signs of life. Mission Commander Melissa Lewis, seeing what had happened, went to find Watney in the storm. But because the ship almost crashes, she is forced to get on the ship, leaving the search for astronaut Mark Watney. As he boarded the spacecraft and the storm worsened, Commander Melissa and his crew decided that Mark Watney was dead because he had been hit hard by an antenna that broke away from their Martian refuge, believing that it had damaged his astronaut suit. Led to death. The commander ordered the crew to take off and return to their spacecraft in orbit, Hermes. The director of NASA company announces in an interview that the crew that left for Mars ended the mission, heading towards the ground. He told the press that one of the astronauts, Mark Watney, was pale from a fragment, and died because of it. After the storm is over, Watney, sunk in the sand of Mars, wakes up with a low oxygen warning. He sees that he has a fragment stuck in it, from the antenna that paled him. He gets up and heads to HAB, short for Habitat, the crew's base of operations. Arriving in the HAB, he removes the piece of antenna that destroyed his suit's biomonitor and lowers his astronaut suit. Watney sits on the chair where she pulls out the pieces of metal left in it, then closes her wound so as not to lose blood. Mark breathed heavily from all the pain he had suffered. The astronaut starts a video diary where he says that the crew, thinking he was dead, left, and having no signal with NASA, he says the company will send a new ship anyway in a very long time. Mark says that at any moment the generator that produces air can break down and die or break the HAB and bang in line with it. But anyway, all this should not happen. He says that he will die because he will not have enough food because the food in the HAB is only destined for 68 solar days, Sol. After much thought about what he should do, he tells himself that he will not die here. He realizes that his only chance of salvation is to meet the Ares 4 crew who will be coming somewhere in 4 years. His immediate concern is that there will not be enough food and water to survive so long, that is, on his own alone all the food is enough for 300 solar days, Sol, but if he saves more it is enough for 400 days, where he has to survive 1,460 days. Watney, being a botanist, and skilled in chemistry and plants, is thinking of an idea to build a farm inside HAB. Seeing that he has potatoes, he begins to prepare his territory to grow potatoes. He begins to put plastic wrap inside the HAB, then begins to bring Martian earth. Mark improvises a farm where he will plant potatoes on the planet where nothing grows, using Martian soil, fertilized with human excrement. But the only problem is that in order for this whole farm to grow, it needs a lot of water, which it does not have. Watney, if he's a botanist, knows the recipe for water. So he, with the help of chemistry by extracting hydrogen from the remaining fuel for the rocket wanting to produce water, the whole construction exploded, throwing Watney into the wall. But he did not give up, and the experiment for water production was successful. The water began to get on the whole plastic wrap. On the 54th solar day, Sol, Watney noticed that the first plant appeared on his potato farm. On Earth, NASA is holding a funeral for Watney. NASA Director Teddy offers his condolences to astronaut Mark Watney, believing him dead. The director of the mission in March, Vincent, tells the director of the Godmother if he can send another expedition in March now, believing that there are plenty of supplies left, and Teddy refuses. Satellite planner Mindy receives a message from Vincent, analyzing and noticing that the March images from HAB on day 18 and day 54 differ from each other. Mindy called the director at NASA, and Vincent to show them what he found. Teddy tells them that even if Watney is alive, he doesn't have to tell the Ares 3 crew, who left him there, because they have 10 months until they reach land, and they will feel guilty that they took off without him. The director at NASA gives an interview announcing to everyone that Watney is possible to be alive. During this time, Mark better analyzes the map and analyzes that the next Ares 4 expedition that will come for the next mission on Mars, at Schiaparelli crater, 3,200 kilometers from it, 2,000 miles, a distance that must be covered in 4 years. Analyzing better, he understood that in order to cover all this distance, he will need 50 solar days, Sol, which he will cover with the help of a rover. But the rover's energy is only 35 kilometers. Watney begins to modify the only functional rover for longer journeys, in preparation for long-distance travel. Mark, testing the rover, almost falls asleep at the wheel. Arriving at night in March, Watney is still testing the new rover, which has improved it by increasing its energy. But one problem is that the nights in March are very cold, and if you turn on the heat in the rover, then the energy will drop by half and you will not be able to go to even greater distances. But if it doesn't get hot at night, it will freeze from the cold, because the nights in March are very cold, so he goes back. Mark remembers that he and his crew buried an electric generator with radioisotopes. They buried this generator with plutonium because if it fails in the presence of humans, then all people will die, and Mark put a flag over it so that the crew does not accidentally hit it. Mark says if he doesn't ruin it, then everything will be fine. He is very happy that he now has heat in the rover. He says he found music that is neither good nor bad from Commander Lewis, where all the music he listens to is to Mark's displeasure. He dances when he listens to music with the generator in the back wrapped in aluminum foil that slowly dissolves and gives off heat. Meanwhile, Ares mission director, NASA, Vincent gives an interview explaining to the press that astronaut Mark Watney is preparing for a trip with the rover, testing and improving it several times. Vincent says he does all this even though it is very dangerous for him to come back to Earth alive. After Vincent returns to the office where the staff is, the NASA director tells him that he will never go out to interview again because it is never said that he will return alive, because people will think that Mark may die. The director at NASA asks the director who takes care of the formation of the rockets, how long will the rocket with food be ready to send the food to Mars? He tells her that in 6 months, and Teddy tells him that he will be able to do it in 3 months. After 48 sunny days, Sol, after Watney has planted potatoes, it begins to bear fruit. Watney says he grew better than he thought. He now has 400 mashed potato plants. He plants the small potatoes again, and takes the larger ones for food. He says it makes no sense what he does if he can't communicate with NASA. Watney started going somewhere with the rover. Vincent wonders where he is going because he hasn't changed course for 13 days, saying Ares 4 is elsewhere. Vincent realizes where Watney is going. Watney takes the rover to take over the Pathfinder probe, which fell silent in 1997. Vincent then came to check on the copy of the Pathfinder probe. Mark begins digging up the Pathfinder spacecraft so he can communicate with NASA. He started fixing it. The device turned on. On the winning ground, he still prepared a copy of the device so he could communicate with Watney. A signal appeared on the ground from the Mars device. Watney asks him in writing if he sees him, and in part, the answer is yes or no. The camera spins, showing Watney the answer. Mark is happy. He had an idea how he could communicate with NASA more easily, so he set to work. The godmother realized what she wanted to make a mark, so they repeated after him. The nose began to rotate with the camera on the ground, where Watney writes all the characters that NASA sends her. Did Mark analyze what NASA sent him, and NASA asked him how he survived? Mark sends them the answer back. Using the lander's camera, he establishes a rudimentary communication with the Earth. With Mark's idea, they began to have longer discussions, where NASA experts explained to Watney what they needed to change in the rover to connect with the Pathfinder so that they could communicate via text messages. Vincent sends the first message to Mark telling him that NASA is preparing a rocket with food for him while he waits for the next Ares 4 expedition. Mark is glad he can communicate with NASA, writing that he is very happy that he will not die. He asks how the crew is feeling, and what was their reaction after finding out they survived. Vincent tells him that the crew doesn't know about it because he didn't let them know. Watney gets angry when he finds out that the crew has not been informed of his survival, and Sanders authorizes Henderson to inform them. After Vincent talks to Mark, NASA sends a video message to the Ares 3 crew, informing them that Mark Watney has survived, shocking the entire crew. The commander says it's her fault she left Mark on Mars. During the night when Watney entered the hab, a hole appeared in Hab's lock due to an explosion. All the air where the potatoes grew came out of the hab. Watney's suit got all the air out of it. He glues his astronaut suit on. Mark looks at the potato plants and sees that it is still freezing due to the cold temperature on Mars. He puts on another astronaut suit and gets into the rover, where he is very angry. Mark did not let himself be beaten and began to close the hole where all the air came out with the help of plastic wrap and glue. He turned on the air generator and took off his helmet. Henderson and JPL director Brucing are preparing a space probe to deliver enough food to withstand Watney until Ares 4 arrives. The NASA director orders the team to speed up the supply mission, skipping safety inspections. However, negligence causes the rocket to destabilize. The rocket took off, but after a minute it flies in the air, it explodes. The Chinese National Space Administration is offering NASA Tiantian, a classified propulsion rocket that can carry a payload to Mars. Meanwhile, JPL astrodynamic Rich Purnell is working out a trajectory to redirect Hermes back to Mars for a rescue more than 2 years earlier, using the Chinese booster to resupply Hermes for another 18 months. Sanders rejects the plan, refusing to risk the crew, but Henderson secretly sends the details to Hermes. The crew votes unanimously for the plan, and NASA, unable to stop them, resupplies Hermes as it uses Earth's gravity to pull Mars back. On the 461st solar day, Watney lost a lot of weight because he started saving a lot of food. Watney begins the 90-foot journey to Schiaparelli and Ares 4 MOV pre-positioned. NASA experts better analyzing the situation tell Vincent that Mark will have to remove almost everything from the MOV because his weight is too big, and because of that he will not be able to go from orbit to Mars. To meet with Hermes, Watney removes many components from the MOV, including the nose cone, to make it easier. Mark puts a tarpaulin in place of the rocket's cone. On the 561st solar day, Sol, Mark launches the rocket and flies to the Hermes ship. Arriving in orbit on Mars, Mark does not reach the ship. The MOV, however, does not reach the required speed and altitude, so Lewis is forced to use shunting propellers to change the course and explosive decompression of Hermes' internal atmosphere to reduce speed. When even that isn't enough, Commander Lewis uses a manned maneuver unit, but still can't reach Watney. Watney pierces the glove of his suit under pressure and uses the air coming out to propel himself towards Lewis, effectively saving him after being left alone for 543 solar days, Sol, on Mars. After returning to Earth, Watney becomes a survival instructor for astronaut candidates. 5 years later, at the launch of the Ares V mission, those involved in saving Watney began a new life. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more videos of this kind. See you on the internet. Bye.